Hello everyone. In past protests, we tested the carburetor cleaner from the little-known AIM brand. If it's garlic, not so much for the sake of interest, but because of the need that has arisen. The carburetor of our main testing ground began to bleed too much. And actually, we were so pleased with the result. A solid foreign quality, but for the price, the cleaner generally tore up all the templates. So we decided to take a couple more cans for tests, of course, for a different purpose. So, we have AT-40 here. I think the name already explains to many why we chose it, and the hydrocoal protector is an anti-gravity coating. Here the logic is less clear, but first of all, it would be nice to demonstrate it on our test instance here. Although what am I carrying on it? Probably anything. It would be nice to protest. He asks for everything. And secondly, since we took a tool that, well, can most often be found in car service stations, it would be nice to supplement it with something also used at a service station. So, the undercolor protector from that very little-known brand Eamon probably was most in the subject, so we chose it. So, let's get started. Let's start with the main and unexpected AT-40. If anyone is not in the subject, there is already, we can say, the legendary liquid for unscrewing the nuts that have become stuck. This is the well-known AT-40, without which it is difficult to do in maritime regions. In large cities, where reagents are sprinkled on roads, as well as to the owners of antiques like this. But, if all three things came together at once, then in general right is gone. There is nowhere without it. So we have AT-40. My attitude to this name. I think that this is exactly the most normal option to do like this, because now everything is being forged all the time. They just lick off the brazen name and packaging, and actually pour horseradish inside, understand what? In this case, the manufacturer, as it were, hints that we are related in terms of our functions, in terms of composition, to the AT-40. That is, it is a kind of analog, but at the same time, we are under our own brand, and do not want to offend anyone and somehow fake something. This is a liquid of its own production. With the lid, by the way, everything is normal. If anyone is interested in why this test, see the previous issue. This is a test like no other. It's just interesting to conduct. Simply because there is no convention in the interpretation of the results. We have a benchmark. It's interesting because, let's say, I don't understand what was the point of releasing an analog of can it really be surpassed? So, in the depths of our test site, we find two very similar bolts, with two specifically stuck nuts. We try to disrupt them, and confirm our fears. Yes, there may be an error in this experiment, since, let's say, one nut may require an effort, say, half a joule less than the other, but let's discard this convention. They keep the same part in the same place, have been in equal conditions in terms of environmental impact, and have not been unscrewed for the same number of decades. Utopia. Vedasheko. Kantumi. We work with the VRU so that no one has an advantage in time. Tin. One stopwatch for two, and in accelerated mode, we can see how similar processes occur in both parts of the screen, as if from one canister. The wrench confirmed our conjectures. The efficiency of the AT-40 and AT-40 is identical. But in the spray test, the analog even surpassed the father of all liquid keys. This, by the way, is an important indicator, given that the is sometimes useful in very hard-to-reach places, but do not attach much importance to the 5 cm advantage of the AT-40. A small run-up as a spray can be observed from batch to batch, for example, and it clearly does not allow us to say that the novelty is better than the honored master. In general, they are the same. So what guided the manufacturer when he released this product? How was he going to surpass and draw attention to himself if everything is so similar between them? Everything, but not everything. The answer was on the store counter. The unknown AT-40 is cheaper than its popular and well-known analog by about 40%. 70 rubles, if we talk about cylinders with a volume of 200 milliliters, and as much as 150 rubles, if we talk about such cylinders with a volume of 450 milliliters. A sensitive difference, even when buying one cylinder. But if it's a car service that buys dozens, if not hundreds of pieces a month. In general, let's move on to the next one. Anti-gravity coating. There is no standard here, but there is an increasing confidence in this trademark. And then you wouldn't get burned, because there is a well-known case when the same brand produces some things worthy, so to speak, for the sake of image, but otherwise I'm completely fucked up. And that, in fact, is why I have a simple suggestion for undercolor protector: apply it wherever possible, apply it correctly, and evaluate the result. Any anti-gravity coating of this kind should in no case be applied to the paintwork. This is exclusively for metal, for iron, for rough plastic. And in fact, as soon as reagents appeared on the roads of large cities, such things became very popular. Well, even without reagents, all kinds of rubs appear, which would also be nice to heal, to close up. The second point, before you apply such a thing, you need to do two things. Firstly, wash the processed parts, and secondly, degrease. But the logic, I hope, is clear, that we will cover the part itself, or dirt, in which case our anti-gravity coating will fall off. It is probably not possible to discuss. So, in our case, we decided to follow the average path. That is, yes, everything was washed, or rather the snow did it for us, on which we have been scraping the bottom for the last few days. But we are too lazy to degrease. At the same time, let's see how good this product is. I think we can get started. Lying pretty well. We calculated that in order to cover the bottom in a circle, you need about 1,000 rubles. So that you know, in specialized services, such a service costs about 30,000 rubles. Yes, of course, they will do everything with a spray gun. The edges will be separated with a mounting film. Everything will be aesthetically pleasing and beautiful. But in fact, if you think about it, it's just the bottom. What's the difference? Functionally, it will be the same. Therefore, there is no difference, except for the price. The question, of course, is how long this composition will last, but judging by how firmly it sits, there is no reason to worry that it will come off, let's say, in a couple of weeks. Most likely, it will last a couple of years, but if you are an off-road lover, then, well, at least a year. What else would I like to add? There was much less noise in the cabin, and this is also a nice bonus. Well, that's probably it for today. We have no more protests. Put likes, subscribe. The more of you we have, the more often we are for you.